I felt helpless, I felt powerless, I felt violated.
This is Valerie Jackson, a transgender woman who was arrested at Love Field Airport after she forgot to remove her handgun during a security check and was taken to the Dallas County Jail. During her processing, the sheriffs and jail employees asked her to expose her genitals to determine whether she was male or female. One of the officers even asked whether she had, quote, everything done down there, and, quote, if you have a penis, you're going with the men. If you have a vagina, you're going with the women. She was later put in a cell next to men who were touching themselves in front of her and called her tranny and he, she.
I was then questioned by corrections officers if I'd had a sex change, if I had everything done down there, and then was told that they had to verify by me pulling my pants.
This dehumanizing experience is just one of the many that take place inside the Dallas County Jail. This jail has gone through numerous inspections and dozens of lawsuits, but its reputation continues to worsen. What you're about to see are the problems of overcrowding, understaffing, ill treatment, and many others that happen inside the Dallas County Jail. The Dallas County Jail houses inmates with mental health issues, those awaiting trial, and those serving a sentence. That means a mix of robbers, rapists, murderers, and other offenders who await their verdict. Every Saturday night, new inmates are brought in, adding to its maximum capacity of 7,500. In 2023, it was reported that the jail has reached 82% of its capacity. Now, you'd think that a jail that was made primarily for pre-trial detainees wouldn't have an overcrowding issue, but there are a series of problems that contribute to this issue. Let's start with understanding their bail system. Shannon Daves was a homeless transgender woman when Dallas police arrested her for an alleged misdemeanor in January of 2018. The judge asked her to pay $500 to be released from jail, and did not even ask if she could afford it. As a result, she had to stay locked up while awaiting trial. This is Dallas County's cash bail system, which kept poor people locked up on pre-trial while allowing those with money to pay bail to walk free. Civil rights groups called this a systemic wealth-based detention, and as many as 70% of inmates were there because they couldn't afford it. This even affects defendants with mental illnesses who waited in jail for more than 2 years for their transfer to state hospitals. This, and the fact that there are no active mental health professionals, is the reason why some detainees spend more time in pre-trial with ill treatment, just like this guy. Meet James Monroe Mims, a 53-year-old Texan with schizophrenia who, after being involved in a domestic standoff, was sent to the Dallas County Jail in preparation for his hearing. Before this hearing, he was brought before the court on multiple occasions, but he was always found to remain incompetent. This time, while awaiting his hearing inside the Dallas County Jail, he received no mental health treatment, even though the hospitals dispatched his antipsychotic medication and anti-seizure medication. Not a single mental health professional appeared for him during his 2-month stay. In March of 1978, it was reported to the guards that Mims flooded his cell with water, which is when the jailers turned off his water supply. For the next 13 days, he rotted in his cell without water. Luckily, he didn't die and was able to be part of a lawsuit against the Dallas County Jail. Joining him were families of 2 other mentally ill ex-inmates, like Clarence Lee Grant Jr., who suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and died in his jail cell in 2003 after not receiving any medicine for 5 days. Kennedy Nickerson, who had the same ailment and was released from jail in 2003 without medication or notice to his family, and was found 4 days later lying on the street with fever, dehydration, and having seizures, according to the lawsuit. The county settled on a $950,000 payout, making it one of the largest landmark cases in history. Now, the prison has a west tower typically reserved for people with mental health issues. Even inmates that are on suicide watch have a section here, and jailers are required to monitor these detainees 24/7. It's a state standard that they, unfortunately, could not fulfill due to lack of staff. Take, for example, Darren Tolbert, a 31-year-old arrested on the charge of indecent exposure. He had a schizoaffective disorder for years, and the jailers determined that he was at risk of attempting suicide while locked up. Unfortunately, only Tolbert's inmates responded to his signs of distress and alerted the jailers. By 4:33 a.m., he was, quote, found on the ground, breathing heavily, moaning, and appeared to be holding his chest while rolling on the floor. He was pronounced dead just an hour and a half later. It wasn't just the inmates that were impacted, but also the staff who were overburdened with additional tasks, which led to a dangerous staffing crisis inside the jail. In September of 2021, the Dallas County jail officers gathered on the steps of Frank Crowley Courthouse wearing street clothes and donned masks, denouncing the dangerous staffing crisis. It was so severe that officers were, quote-unquote, mandated into working 16-hour days for up to 5 days in a row. Not only that, with the pandemic on the rise, the Dallas County Jail ended up putting one of their finest veteran detention officers' life on the line. This is David Finney, the prison guard with asthma who worked frequent overtime shifts in the jail but became an essential worker for them. His family concludes that it was the overtime shifts that were the cause of his death on the 14th of August 2021. According to the report by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, or TDCJ, it lost more employees to COVID than any other prison system in the country, around 3 times higher than the national average for prison staff. During the COVID-19 outbreak, the Dallas County Jail wasn't only overcrowded and understaffed, but also short on supplies. In August of 2021, Chris Galt was in line to be bailed out of Dallas County Jail when he realized something was off. 10 days ago, he was waiting along with a group of fellow detainees trying to post bail when an argument broke out between a jailer and a detainee. The jailee pepper sprayed the detainee, and the whole hallway was filled with acrid fumes. Everyone started coughing and retching at the stench. All except Galt. Turns out, he could no longer smell, which is a clear symptom of COVID-19. After he called for medical help, it took more than 48 hours for an officer to respond and escort him to the on-site clinic. According to him, detainees were only granted 1 disposable mask, and none of the detainees wore masks in the general holding area. And let's not forget, there were 6 people total per room, so there was no chance of any social distancing. The detainees were offered a change of clothes once a week, and never offered a change of undergarments during Galt's 2 weeks inside the jail. The detainees had to wash their clothes in the toilet with soap purchased from the commissary. That is, if they could afford it. And in case you're wondering why the toilets, it's, according to Galt, quote, because the toilets got better water pressure than the sinks. This clothing incident and countless deaths show what the incarcerated people and some correctional officers face. With more paused trials, unsanitary conditions, and ill treatment, this jail continues to fail in compliance with state standards. There were mandated annual inspections here in 2021 and 2022, and no surprise, it failed both times. This year's inspection is set to take place soon, but we wouldn't be surprised if the results come out disappointing again. Thanks for watching.